Our next problem is going to use the same exact chemical reaction as we had previously. So remember, the first step is always to make sure you're working with a balanced equation. Before you even read the problem, go ahead and balance the equation. It's the same one as before. So I'm going to go ahead and just fill in the same coefficients. Remember, in this reaction we have glucose and oxygen forming carbon dioxide and water. Okay, now to read the new question. If you needed to produce 10.7 moles of water, how many grams of glucose would be needed? In other words, I need to produce 10.7 moles of water, and I'm trying to figure out how many grams of glucose I need to start with in order to make that much product. Always out to the side, go ahead and write down just to remind yourself what you are given. I'm started with the information that I need to produce 10.7 moles of water. And what I'm looking for, the units that I'm looking for, are grams of glucose. C6H12O6 is glucose. Okay, just like before, since I'm going to go from moles of a substance and eventually end up with grams, I'm going to have to use the formula weight at some point in order to convert from moles to grams. Okay, let's go ahead and start with what we're given. 10.7 moles of water. Draw my horizontal line, draw my vertical line. Now I'm thinking to myself, if I'm starting with moles of water, how can I eventually get to grams of glucose? Well, first I need to go from moles of water to moles of glucose. I can go from moles of one substance to moles of another substance by using the coefficients in your balanced equation. So let's put moles of water down at the bottom. I'm eventually going to want that to cancel. So whatever's up here is the units you want down here to cancel. And I'm going to go from moles of water to moles of glucose. I eventually want to get to grams of glucose, but I can't go directly from moles of one substance to grams of another. I first have to go from moles of one substance, in this case water, to moles of a second substance, in this case glucose. Now, how do I know what numbers go here? I look at my balanced equation. So over here at water, it looks like 6 moles of water is going to be produced for every 1 mole of glucose that you start with. So remember, your conversion factor from going from moles to moles is going to come from your balanced equation. I'm going to extend that horizontal line, draw another vertical line. These units cancel out. I'm now currently at moles of glucose, but that's not what I'm looking for, so I need to keep going. Let's go ahead and put moles of glucose down at the bottom. I put it at the bottom so that eventually it can cancel out with the moles of glucose that are at the top. And I'm going to go towards the next unit that I'm trying to get to is grams of glucose. Grams of glucose. Okay? Now I'm going to think to myself, well, what numbers go here? Anytime you're going from moles to grams or grams to moles, anytime you're switching units from moles to grams, you need to think of formula weight. So just like we did in this previous problem, we used the formula weight to go from grams to moles. Now I'm going to go from moles to grams, once again using the formula weight. 1 mole of glucose is going to have a certain mass. I previously calculated that mass. Remember, that's the formula weight or the molecular weight. That's the mass of 1 mole of that substance. So the mass of 1 mole of glucose is 180.156. Real quick, the reminder, remember I went back to my atomic weights, multiplied them by the number of atoms I had of each atom, of each element, to get to my formula weight. Okay, let's see where I'm at my units now. Moles of glucose cancels. I'm left with grams of glucose. Well, that's what I was looking for, so I can stop there. If I multiply the top numbers, I get this large number, 1,927.67, divided by my bottom number, 6 times 1 is simply 6. Now, you may be, with your calculator, able to you don't have to write down this step. If you can go directly from multiplying your tops, dividing by your numbers, and getting to your final answer, you can do that. So my final answer, 321.28 grams of glucose. I'm going to squeeze in my units there. That is my final answer for this problem. So once again, I was given moles of a product. I wanted to figure out how many grams of the reactant I needed. I went from moles of one substance to moles of another. I went from moles of that substance to grams of that substance to finally get the grams of glucose that I need to produce 10.7 moles of water.